kids, welcome to another GLEN YAPS. This is a Friday. I've got construction going on out in front of the house, so hopefully the noise doesn't come through on the video. Don't think it will. Hasn't too much in the past, but it's a little bit noisier today. Okay, today's video. The curse of musicians that think they're engineers. And when I say engineers, I mean sound engineers. For my years of being a musician, that curse has been from day one on. There's always musicians that think they're engineers, and really none of us are. They think they are, but they're not. It's one thing to learn about engineering, but most of us are not trained engineers. We're not schooled engineers. We learn the process, and through our lifetime, we adapt a lot of the ways of engineers to hopefully help us in our band's front house live mix, or when you're doing a basement recording thing like I do with my own studio. Now, we like to help other musicians if there's a problem. And sometimes that's good. Most of the time it's not. And it comes down to the simplest denominator, which is each band does sound their own way. There are just too many factors involved to make everyone happy. Personal taste comes into it. The style of band, the style of music, the gear, the audience, the venue, they all affect some parts of sound. The problem is musicians just can't let some other band do things the way they want. I don't know what it is, drives me nuts. Even when I'm doing my own engineering in my studio, and I'm going to show this. I've got my own mixer. I've got my racks of stuff. I've got my speakers. I've got soundproof ceiling. This whole studio is set up to do recording and to create music. Am I an engineer? No. Not even close. None of us are engineers in this city, except for maybe a handful. And that handful is maybe a couple that went to school for it or whatever. It all comes down to what we've learned along the way and personal taste. What I create in my studio is for my ears. It's not from an engineering point of view. I learned tricks from reading engineer magazines. I'm online on engineer sites learning the craft, but I am not an engineer. I wish musicians in town would understand the same thing. When playing live, unless somebody asks your opinion, just please accept the fact that each band is going to do things their own way, whether you like it or not. That goes for internal band members. Sometimes it's the person, one person in the band owns the rig, and they want the band to sound a certain way. They own the rig. You just have to bite the bullet and go for the ride, whether good or bad. I've been in lots of those situations. I've owned PA systems myself. You know, there's so many factors that change between individuals and bands, just right there alone, to warrant that everything is supposed to sound the same. You're supposed to follow the same rules. It just does not work that way. It just doesn't. I wish musicians would get that in their heads. Like, for a band to play and have every musician come up and say, this should be done, this should be done, this should be done, is so fucking annoying. I cannot stress it enough. First of all, that's like criticizing me as a drummer, going up to a drummer and criticizing and picking apart every single drummer in the city on their sound. You can do that in private and say, that's not my sound. Fine and dandy. But you don't go up to a drummer and go, you know, you really should tune that tom to this note because it doesn't hit my ear right. You know, that's basically what it is. That goes for guitar players coming up and saying, you know, your guitar should be this. You know, your bass should be this. A band within itself is entitled to that. But listening to 25 other musicians come up and say, you know, that needs that, that needs that, that needs that. You'd be twisting knobs all night and never play a fucking note. So, here's the deal. None of us are engineers. Most of us don't play the same style of music. We don't have the same gear. And you might find the law is that this, if I'm coming to see you, I should be able to voice my opinion on what should be changed. That ain't happening. You're not the one paying us. The bar is paying us. If the bar has a problem, say it's volume, they'll ask us to turn down. You know, sometimes an audience member, I can have a full bar of 50 people and one person finds it loud. So what do? You turn it down for that one person, or the rest of the people fine with it? That's a band issue and a bar issue and that particular audience. Those people deal with it. It's not like come up, you know, some random person come up to the band and they have to listen to that one person. There's so many factors. That's something that you have to work out with the venue and the audience. And it has to be done that way. They're the one paying for the band. But I just find it like there's one thing to have criticism, and criticism is fine, but the problem is minding your own business is another. In the last 40 years that I've been playing, there's always a handful of musicians that think they're God's gift to engineers. And it really, really gets annoying. There's so much involved in the music itself, the individual instruments, their sound, getting it into the PA and projecting it to the audience. There's so many factors. The key thing, there's also personal taste. You might think, this should be quieter because your style of music or your tastes are saying that to you. That just doesn't cross over to every other musician. After 40 years of playing in different bands where someone in the band owned all the PA, that personal taste thing always is a factor. Right away, you're not thinking like an engineer. So a lot of the times, if your guitar player owns the PA, the guitar stuff is going to be the dominant thing. Not always, but I'm saying in most cases, in my experience. I'm a drummer. Drums and bass are going to be in the mix. Not that I don't love the other instruments, but it's just like a default switch, You want to favor your instrument. It's just how it is. It's not like you want to do it on purpose. Your ears are just trained to listen to and feed on the instrument that you love. So that's what separates musicians from true engineers. But even engineers have their favorites. So again, personal taste. And you might hear something you don't like. Unless somebody asks, or it's really drastically horrible, you know what? You're just going to have to bite it. That's just the way it is. I've gone and seen every band in town. We all have different mixes. We all have different musicians. We all have different styles. Our individual sounds are totally different. Us drummers, we get together and we shoot the breeze. We all have different tastes in just tuning one drum. One drum, I can say the snare drum. Every drummer that I hang around with and talk to, we all have different tastes. I may not like most of theirs. Some I do. That comes back the same way. Get over it. That is part of their DNA. That's part of my DNA. It is our sound, what appeals to our ears. To try and dump that on others is really fucking annoying. You're not being a critic, you're being annoying. Now, with my band in particular, we just bought a number of new PA systems. We have a big PA system and we have a medium PA system. We also have a small one. All the rigs is brand new. All three rigs are brand new. They could be used together, individually, because our band functions as a DJ service also. So we are in the midst of learning our new PA. We even have part of the rig that is fully digital, where we can mix by using a phone and walk around on the audience and still do it. I don't know how many times I can tell people to just shut the fuck up. It's like we're still learning the rig. We record videos of the band almost every weekend. What part of this do people don't understand? We record video to hear where things need adjusting. We don't need other musicians to come out and bark at us what needs to be changed. And when this process keeps getting repeated, it really, really gets annoying. And I know other bands go through this too. We've all talked about this. This is just a musician's fault. And it's not criticism. I don't know what it is. Because you have to be a full-blown engineer to be a critic of sound of the bands. But none of us are. So why are our mouths flapping and telling others how to do sound? It's all a personal sound preference. And you might rhyme off a frequency in the air like this has to be changed and this has to be changed. You know what? One thing I did learn is some frequencies on an individual instrument, like a snare drum. Snare drum buzzes. To some people that drives them nuts. And that snare might buzz on a certain frequency. It might buzz by hitting one tom, and then that frequency of that tom ricochets into the snare. You will never, ever totally get rid of that buzz. That is from engineers that say this. What you can do is dial it in to make it less, but it will never disappear. It's a vibrating spring system under a snare. It will vibrate. If the tom don't trigger it, a note on a guitar is going to do it, or a note on the bass. It will never disappear. But some musicians, I've seen them actually take tape and tape those snares with duct tape so they don't vibrate. Well, then they aren't working as a snare. This is the problem when you listen to other people and just don't do things yourself. And this is when people will just shut up, do what you do, leave us do what we do. Anyways, Total Pro, world's top drummer, Dave Weckl. That buzz in the snare, just watch Steven's live video. It's got teaching classes. And basically, he's an engineer. Put out many albums, but he's also a musician. He said that buzz is always going to be there. What you do is you try and make it the less as possible, but it's still going to be there. It's part of the drum set. Okay? That's just part of its sound, its DNA. It rattles. The snare has a wire piece underneath that vibrates. That's why it's called the snare. Those are snares. So, I don't know what the deal is that people cannot get the message that if we need your help, we'll ask for it. Okay? That's always been the polite thing. To just come up and start barking out shit, that ain't going to win you any brownie points. And I find it annoying. I find it just annoying. It lights me up right away. And then you could continue to tell these people, yeah, we got it. We'll do it our way. So, I mean, we just got through playing a whole bunch of gigs, and we never had one bad thing said about us from the audience. That's the key point here. Most people in the audience don't give a shit if my snare is rattling or if some frequency's gone a little cuckoo. What the audience does care about is if they can hear vocals and if it's too loud. That's the majority. They just want to have fun. They're not into the technical thing. They don't give a shit about the technical thing. Bars, they care about the volume. If you're too loud, they'll let you know. You don't have to let me know. The bar paying me lets me know. That's their prerogative. They're paying me. So it doesn't matter what musician comes up to me and says, meh, 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 eh. And I go, the bar guy. They're the one writing the check. I listen to them because why? They're my boss. You aren't. You might be helping, but you're not. So you can criticize playing. That's fine. That's never bothered me. You can come up and say I suck. I don't give a shit. You know why? Because I'm playing drums because I like to play drums. I'm not out to win points, to be the best drummer, the worst drummer, the shitty drummer. I'm doing it because I love doing it. Nothing anybody says to me about my playing is going to rub me the wrong way. I don't care. I'm playing drums for me. That's the stupid thing people just don't get. Most musicians play music because they love it. The sound engineer thing is just a factor of presenting that fun and love to an audience. So I love playing. My band loves playing. We just want to transfer that to an audience. And we want that to be fun also. But to have this, the conscience musician, you're not doing it right, you're not doing it right, you're not doing it right, this is that. Fuck off. Like, how many buttons do you need to push? You know what? And the funny thing is, I can go see these other bands that do this, blah, 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 blah. And they sound like us. The sound is no better. It's no worse. It's still not engineered sound. So, okay, so now we have technology. Now, this soundboard I just showed you in my studio, I have to physically turn the knobs. Like the good old days. Sliders, do the treble, mids, the sweeps on the bass. I have to adjust all that. To what? My own ears. I'm already telling you I'm not an engineer, but I love mixing. It's just a fun thing for me. Remember the key word, fun. I'm not doing sound for a pro band like, Pink Floyd. I'm doing sound for Glenn. And I'm doing sound for friends in here just to have fun. Make a recording. Have fun with it. Make a song. You know what? It's about how you play the song, not how it sounds. Sure, the sound factor comes into it after. But the key focus for most bands is how we play the song. So, you can tell I'm a little pissed, but for me, I might be only speaking to myself, but I know I'm not. Because every musician's gone through this. The sound thing out front is limited to so many things. The new digital world now, like I say, you can program all your sound into computer banks, and by a push of a button, once you get the perfect mix to your ears, not to everybody else's, to yours, you can save it. So every time you play that bar, you just click a button and that mix you had perfect weeks ago reappears. Right? Not have to move any sliders. It's all good. But you know what? People still start to bitch. You could have $25,000 worth of new PA system and someone's still going to bitch. So here you go, you push this button and I'm that frequency there, but we had it good the last time. Yeah, but this time it needs, fuck off already. That's where it is. We've got all the technology and we're bragging about the technology. And you know what? The one button, there's still some shithead that's got to come up and tell you, that snare buzz, if you could just, You're not even in the band. It's like you're a person with their own taste. What are you doing? Just worry about what's in your own backyard. It's like a neighbor thing. All these bands are neighbors. We're all doing our own thing in our own yard. And the funny part is, for us anyways, if we get criticized, it's like we play every single weekend. Every single weekend. And the ones that complain are musicians. I've never had an audience member come up and say, you know, Glenn, I don't know what that rattle is, but I think it's your snare. You know, there's a frequency that guitar has. I don't know. Never have I had an audience member do that. Audience member will come up and say volume. It's always a volume thing. It's either too low, can't hear this, can't hear the band, or the band's too friggin' loud. And most bands are too loud. You know, this is not the 60s, you know, where we had no monitors, column speakers in the front, and the PA system was 150 watts. So the band had to adjust for a 150 watt vocal speaker in front. You know, it's not that. It's not those days anymore. You know, bands are loud. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. Bands are loud. Drummers play harder than they ever used to. You know, that's just the way it is. Not my fault. You know, it's just the way it is. You know, music styles changed. They wanted to be heavy hitters. They want to play louder. That's not my fault. Can't take it out on my band just because we're too loud on stage and it's not hitting your ears right. You know. At some point you just have to, like, are you here to support the band and just enjoy the music? And if it's annoying you that much, don't come out. That's a simple thing. When the people stop coming out, then we'll stop playing, or we'll reinvent ourselves and look in the mirror and go, okay, what did we do wrong? The musicians are slow learners. I know that. But it's just the way it is. I just wish people would understand, mind your P's and Q's. That's what my mom used to say. So, like I say, I'm totally cool with you coming up and criticizing my drumming. Bring it on. I don't care. Doesn't bother me at all. When it comes to the sound thing, when none of us are engineers, none, not you, not me, not the guys in the band, we're not engineers. All right? So from one musician to another, yeah, we're musicians. So yeah, criticism between musicians, totally cool with that. No problem. But you can't criticize engineering when you're not an engineer yourself. You have a personal taste of sound that appeals to your hearing, doesn't appeal to mine, doesn't appeal to the other guys, doesn't appeal to the audience, doesn't appeal to this. You're still not an engineer. None of us are engineers. We might be good at what we do. We might be shitty at what we do. I'm sorry. Get over it. It's just, that's the way it is. Like I say, I don't claim to be a sound engineer. This is all fun for me. Trying to get the best drum sound to my ears. I personally don't like the drums in today's recordings. That's a personal taste. Does it mean they can't mix them? No. It means they mix them differently. Key word, mix them differently than they used to. I go back to the days of 50s and 60s where microphone, you might have 3 microphones on a drum set. I love the sound of natural drums. That's just not the way it is now. Does that make me wrong for not liking that? It's a personal taste. I'm not going to go up and say, you know what, you got 18 mics on that kit, take them all off and put 3 when I go see a band. Yeah, take all those mics off, put 3 mics on there. The drums will sound so much better. It's personal taste. And the drummer would tell me to go jump off a cliff. It's just the way it is. None of us are engineers. Unless you lay a document out in front of me when you're coming up to my stage. Here. Yeah, can I help? Come on. Let's just stop this, okay? It's so annoying. It's so annoying. Like, what makes yours better than this band? Makes it better than this? Just because your personal taste is in your head ringing off going, this is the best. This is the best sound right here inside my head. Well, that's bullshit, because it's not. Each single musician has their own taste in what they want to hear. That is fact. Read it and weep, but that's the way it is. I can put 3 people in the same room, 3 bass players, and none of those bass players will like the same sound. None. That's why there's millions of pieces of gear for individual tastes now. Like, how many guitar pedals, how many flanger pedals do you need? There's like 80 on the market, at least. So each one of those is sold to somebody at some point. They each have a taste for this. They're not all created equal, but somebody loves each one of those pedals. And yet you're going to come up and tell them, that sound of flange is horrible. You should try this flange. But that's your taste, not theirs. And the same goes for sound for all us local bands that we are not engineers. Then it comes up to, you should have a sound guy. Really? The bars don't pay the bands enough. And now you want us to fork out for a sound guy. I went through the sound thing with sound guys. So you got your cousin Bob on the soundboard with a hockey stick leaning on all the sliders. Yeah, that's really good. So he gets $70 or $80 a night for laying a hockey stick on the sliders. Hey, if you can afford a sound guy, knock yourself out. But he's not an engineer, not in town, not for $70 a night. He's a guy with another personal taste. So now you've added another personal taste guy into the mix. No pun intended. And you'll probably yell at him because he's not doing sound the way you want it. So, has to stop. Really, has to stop. Now, I've told a few people already to knock it off. But, don't want to listen. Keep coming up and saying the same thing. Wow. That's all I can say is wow. Someday, I don't know when, but you're going to learn that bands are independent to other bands when it comes to their personal shit. That goes for gear sound, that goes for PA sound. And when you come up and go in attack mode, the shields just go up. It's just like, here's the fuck off shield right here. This says, go fuck yourself. All right? Especially when we've gone through this. Now, I'm more pissed off in the situations I am because I'm the drummer in the band I'm in, and I have nothing to do with the sound. But for some reason, I seem to be the magnet for people to come to. Not my band, not my PA, not my sound. But I also trust the person that's doing it to get the sound that we like. You know how I know that? Because I've taken video of the band. I've done recordings of the band. There's nothing ugly in the mix that we have. I will say it's presentable. Is it an engineer's perfect mix? No. You know why? Because not everything is running through the PA on stage. That's the key thing. People see all these microphones on my drum set live and they think the drums are coming through the PA. Those microphones are on my drums for my in-ear monitors. Nothing else. It's for my own hearing. I've told people this so many times till I'm blue in the face. They don't get it. They see a microphone and they automatically think that thing should be coming out through the PA. The venues we play do not warrant miking an entire drum set to blast on an audience. I know for a fact from the videos, I play with rim shots. I'm not a hard player, but I rim shot. I whip the stick with my fingers. I can be just as loud or louder than drummers swinging their arm like they're chopping wood, just by whipping my fingers and rim shotting the drum. In the videos, my drums are loud enough and sometimes too loud, and that's not being mic'd. So in my case, I have to pick certain drums that are quieter. I have to try that, and that's what I do. But the only thing on my drum set going through the PA system on any of the venues we play here, except for maybe the Esquire where one extra thing is mic, is the kick drum. So when someone comes up to me and complains about the drum sound, I almost want to laugh in their face before I smack it, because it's like, you aren't paying attention to me. Those microphones are just for my own in-ears. That's just so I can hear the drums sheltered out from the other instruments. I like to hear the drums. I also have channels with guitar and bass into a mixer that's beside me. That's 10 tons of extra gear I'm carrying just for my own satisfaction. It doesn't affect the audience one iota. But some of these pretend engineers come up and think, yeah, you need this on the drums, you need that. And I go, really? The drums aren't even mic'd. What you hear is the actual drums on the stage, nothing else. This is how much local band engineers, so-called engineers, know when they walk up. It's hilarious. I've had one person in years past with a band. It was a guitar player. This seems to be a guitar player thing for some reason. Most guitar players, they get these itchy balls that they got to come up and fuck with somebody's shit. I was playing a bar on Bay Street. I forget the name of it at the time. And my band's playing. This guitar player, who will remain nameless, for whatever reason, couldn't hear the guitar to his liking, runs up on stage and turns up the guitar player's rig on stage. Now, my guitar player at the time was a greener. He was a great guitar player, still a great guitar player, but he was naive and a young kid at the time, and was like, he didn't know what to do. We're in the middle of a song, and he's up there. This guy just ran up and just turned, out of the blue. Not a friend of the band, just came up and turned the guitar on. Well, needless to say, Glenn ripped this guy a new asshole. And you know what? If you ever did that to me again, I'd probably bounce you off the stage. Like, who comes up and then, I got my drum key, I'm going to tune your drums while you're playing. That's how bad this gets sometimes. So, and believe me, that guy never showed up at another gig. And you know what? We don't want those kind of people there. You know why? Because they don't know where the line is. There's a line, right? Don't cross over that line, because now you're being an asshole. You can come up and offer, but the fine line, if you start crossing it, you piss us off. Every musician gets pissed off. So anyways, This is my heavy rant. So grow up or stay home. Because you're not helping anybody. You're pissing everybody off. And there's a bunch out there. There's not just one person. There's a bunch out there. It's like, unless somebody asks for it, shut the fuck up. We all have learning curves with this mixing console. Yeah, it's really great that we can program the digital board and not move, 16 sliders and turn knobs like we did in the old days. Yeah, I know, everything's getting so automated and perfect. You know what? I heard great mixes back when they had the sliders from pro engineers. I've gone to lots of concerts. Wonderful. That's great. That's great the technology is saving time. But you know what? There's still these fucking dickheads that come out and go, you know what? That guitar sound, that E string there, it's got a frequency that really fucking annoys me, and I can help you fix that. I'm not an engineer myself, but boy, I know how to get rid of that fucking annoying E string rumble there. And that snare there, if you take like this, Gorilla tape, it's on sale right now, Canadian Tire. If you just take that and shove that fucking shit all over that snare and make sure it doesn't make a sound of any rattle, boy, you would help the mix. It might sound like a water balloon to some, but you know what? You won't have that annoying rattle. Yeah. Okay, let's stop all that. For the money, here's the deal. For the money local bands make, for the amount we spend on gear, for the fun that we want to have, there's no room for this bullshit. I'm a blunt instrument. When somebody comes up to me and continues to harp on it, it's fine. Okay, you made your suggestion at first. But if this becomes a routine, you're going to get it. I'm going to lay it out. And I've laid it out to people. It's not that I don't want to listen to you. The problem is, I don't want to hear the same thing all the time. And you might say, well, maybe you should fix it. And I go, maybe you should just mind your business. Because now you made your suggestion, I've laid it out, and now you want to keep harping on it. You don't like the answer, so you're going to keep being a bitch until the answer fits your agenda. That doesn't work with me. It doesn't work with most bands. It doesn't work with most musicians because personal taste. And you're going to say, well, you mean your band likes that frequency in there? It ain't your problem. It's not your problem. Go home. Watch reruns of Matlock because it's just not your problem. If you're in the audience and you can't just listen to the band and you just can't enjoy yourself, we don't want you there. Why? You're just going to be miserable. You're going to nag through the whole show and you're going to be miserable. You're not doing us anything. You're not doing us any favors. You're not doing any favors for the audience. You're just one of those people that doesn't play nice with others. Okay. Now please tell me I'm not going to go through this again. Like when I play every weekend now, I'm going to have this, the frequency police follow me around. Like, come on. Enough is enough. So I was nice the first time, get pissed off the second time, third time you're really ripping me mad, and now you get a rant video. Thank you very much. I love doing rant videos because I know right now every musician's going, same thing. We get that all the time. These guys come up to us and they tell us this and they tell us that. There's a way to do it. Right? There's a way. There's a beautiful way to do it. It's called asking. Not telling, asking. And direct it at the right person when you're asking. Then it comes down to, okay, we'll accept that if it's a nice, thing, and if you're not like this, that, wrong, slap. Like, come on. But I'm telling you right now, most bands will just say, go jump in a creek. They aren't getting paid enough. They don't care enough. Or they have their own way of doing things. And tough luck, it ain't your way. When you're in a band with me, half the problem is like I've always had smaller monitor rigs. My way back back in the early days was we couldn't afford big monitor systems, so we had to sing louder. That's the way it was. Just didn't have them, So you learn different ways, and they just don't fit with other people. I've been with bands that say, I can't hear the monitor, I can't hear the monitors, I can't hear the monitors, I can't hear the monitors. We got 2 guitar players, keyboards, and everything else, and we can't hear the monitors. Yep, I know. Until we fork out more money for them, that's all we got. Have to live with it. So, and I remember playing with a guy, and I learned a lot off this guy. And he used to say, he'd set all the monitors, didn't matter what kind of vocal style you were, whatever. All the sliders were the same. He would EQ each one differently, but to suit your vocal. But volumes, all equal. And if you asked for more monitor, his response, sing louder. And you know what? It worked. Because everybody in that band was in that band for almost 3 years. You learned to sing any way you could to sing louder. It didn't matter if you swallowed that microphone. Anything to get you. And we did all board recordings with that. And we did front house live recordings with it. And you know what? Guess what? You could hear all the vocals perfectly. And he never touched a slider in 3 years. It was always every bar. Those 3 sliders never moved. In fact, there was dust on the slider on each side of that slider. If you moved it, there was a clean spot. So that was his way, his taste, his rules. Isn't that amazing? And he wasn't an engineer. You imagine an engineer sing louder. No, they would turn you up. Not him, though. But you know what? Still sounded good. Audio recordings are fantastic. I've got them posted online. Yep, listen and weep, because that's what it is. Anyways, that's my rant for today. Please shut up. Don't want to hear any more shit about sound. We're working on it. If you don't like it, stay home. That's all I can say. And if you can't stop it, well, then seek therapy. Because no band is going to put up with it. And I know I'm not. And that's why we're doing this video. And you can just enjoy the repercussions of that kind of bullshit. So, friend or no friend, when enough is enough, you're going to get it. And now you're getting it. Thanks for watching, everybody. And all you musicians out there, have fun with your engineering and just shut up when dealing with other bands. So let them do what they want. We'll all learn the hard way. Musicians always learn the hard way. Is this something new? No. We're all stubborn. We all learn the hard way. But we do learn. Let things ride out. And you know what? Have fun while you're doing it. Because when it crashes at the end, then we'll know. All right? Thanks.